Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Since this is the birth month of Bobby Fischer, the greatest player of all time, as determined by many experts, I thought it'd be only appropriate to look at one of his games. This game was played during his nationwide simultaneous exhibition tour that he made in 1964. He was the five-time U.S. champion when this game was played, having won his first U.S. championship in 1957 at the age of 14. And, of course, he went on to become world champion in 1972, 8 years later. This is a game that he played from a 50-board simultaneous exhibition in San Francisco. During his nationwide tour in 1964, he actually played over 2,000 people in many different cities and places throughout the United States. This one game, as I said, is one of 50 games he was playing simultaneously in San Francisco. And he had the white pieces, as was traditional for most simultaneous exhibition people to do, was to take the white pieces. He was playing a man who was younger at this time, but later went on to become a life master. So he's playing an opponent who's pretty good in this game. Let's have a look at the game. E4 for Bobby, and his opponent starts with the Sicilian defense, C5. Knight to F3, knight to C6, D4. This is standard opening theory. Even back in 1964, these moves were very common, very standard. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, E6, and one of the main lines of theory at this point is knight to B5, black plays D6, white plays, starting again, bring out his pieces, playing, of course, according to the ABCs of chess. White wants to bring out his bishops, his b's, bring out his knights and castles. As you'll see, this is exactly what White does here, what Bobby Fischer plays here, follows the ABCs of chess. Black now strikes back in the middle of the board, E5. He does push a pawn a second time that he's ready to move, but this was theory at the time. This has been one of the moves that's been determined by the grandmasters, the best players of the game, to be correct, even though he's moving a pawn for the second time that he already moved. Of course, what we like to try to do is only move one piece, move every piece out as soon as we can, only move a piece once in the early part of the game and not keep moving the same piece. But so White retreats one square. Black plays A6 now, attacking the white knight. Perhaps he could also have played. There's a lot of moves Black could have played here. He could have played his knight to F6 and then played here, preparing castling. Follow the ABCs of chess. Bring out your knights, your b's, castling. But he plays A6. Not a terrible move, but perhaps not totally correct. Fischer doesn't want to lose a knight, of course, so he retreats it back to C3. Again, these are kind of standard moves. Black does move out finally from the last rank, one of the bishops. Again, maybe instead knight to F6, preparing to castle kingside. Might have been maybe somewhat more accurate. Certainly the move he makes should not lose. And White plays A4 now. He's trying to stop Black from playing B5. Again, there's nothing wrong if he had just played instead, moved here or moved here to get ready to castle. ABCs of chess is fine. What he played, of course, is fine. Now Black plays knight and G to E7. Again, maybe knight to F6. We want to look at a place, a square we can quickly move to using the kingside B in case we need to castle. But black doesn't seem worried about that. He puts his knight on a logical square where we might want to place the bishop. So Fischer now plays knight d5 again, getting ready. He could have moved instead here or here instead and got rid of castle. Plays knight to d5. Black takes it. He of course captures back. He doesn't want to lose a piece, be a piece down. And one of the logical moves here for black, it would be knight to b4, getting out of the way of the pawn. Perhaps even back here with the idea of knight into d7. He plays a queen check first. Queen to a5 check. Maybe not the best idea. It allows white to continue developing his pieces, moves he would make logically anyway, and now he can make it with gain of time, of course. He's got to put something in the way of the check, do something about the checks. So white, Bobby Fischer, develops his queen knight, getting another piece off the back rank, knight to c3, and black plays knight back to b8, getting it out of the way of being captured, maybe again with the idea of playing knight to d7 at some point. White, Bobby Fischer, finally says, okay, I'm going to get rid of castle, and he moves off the back rank the bishop. And black plays knight to d7, but still not doing anything about castling. I mean, does black intend to castle queenside here? I mean, this would be very chancy on a half-open file here, and again with the white pieces aimed towards that side. So black's king, although the middle of the game has not broken open yet, it still could be very precariously placed. White castles, again ABCs of chess, and black this time plays knight to b6. Okay, he's attacking the d pawn twice, both knights attacking it. Fischer has it defended only with one knight once. And now he comes up with an interesting move here. He plays b4. Instead of defending his pawn twice, he decides he's going to give away another pawn. Again, the idea is development. Get your pieces out and into place as soon as possible. And black, of course, captures a pawn. It says, why not? It's unguarded. Why should I not capture it? My queen's attacked. Anyway, I've got to do something about that, capture the pawn. Fischer plays rook over, letting him capture the knight, but looking ahead. Again, the skill of looking ahead that we've all learned. So as expected, black captures the knight, and white, Bobby Fischer, captures this knight down here. So black is still a pawn ahead. Fischer's lost a pawn. He's a pawn down here, but black is no good place for his king yet. He should have made time earlier to castle kingside, get his king to safety, but it doesn't appear as though he was concerned about that. Now the game is starting to open up a little bit for white's pieces. It's starting to become a nice open board for both white's bishops. Notice that both of them are starting to have some nice open diagonals, some open lines. Suddenly we have a rook that's moved into the black territory, so this is getting a little precarious here for black. But so black takes the other pawn. He goes 2 pawns up now, and he's attacking with his knight the rook, and maybe he can exchange off one of white's strong b's as well. Okay, Fischer at this point had evidently foreseen this move, and he comes up with a very interesting reply. He plays bishop to b5, b to b5, check. Now, allowing pawn takes the piece, but exposing his own queen, capturing the knight. So, black's choices are not good here, limited here. He doesn't really want to move his king at this point. Then he can't castle for the rest of the game, and his king will be caught in the middle of the board. So he really has to go ahead and capture the bishop. Really not much choice. And Fischer, he doesn't want to have a piece lost for nothing, captures the knight, which is now unguarded. And now, again, it looks, looks like more and more the black king is starting to become exposed because he did not castle. His king is still on e8. He has not moved next his king out of the way is bishop, so he can't castle. And now we have the white queen, the white rook, and white has coming into play sometime soon, a good piece as well. Yeah, a strong B. Okay. Okay. Black trying to exchange queens here. He plays queen of c4, hoping maybe to get queens off the board and relieve some of the pressure on his king. Fischer wants no part of taking queens off. He knows he's got an advantage here, and he takes the pawn, so he gains back one of his pawns at the same time. So now he's only a pawn down, but for that pawn, he's got a very strong game. He's attacking another pawn here. He may lose a pawn here, but more importantly, the black king could get caught in the crossfire of the white pieces stuck in the middle of the board because he has no time to castle here. And black, again, trying to get queens off the board as much as he can, plays queen of c8, and white, Bobby Fischer, again, wants no part of taking queens off, not here. And now when he thinks that he's going to be able to use his queen to scoot around and attack the black pieces, and hopefully attack the black king too, which is still stranded temporarily in the middle of the board. And perhaps he could have tried bishop to e7 here, maybe getting rid of castle. Black captures a pawn here, another pawn. And again, he goes 2 pawns up because if I can hang on, maybe I'll be 2 pawns up, and I can get queens off maybe and win the game 2 pawns up. But he's playing the guy who went on to become the greatest player of all time, and Fischer, even at this point in 1964, when he played this game, he was a 5-time U.S. champion. So he was the current U.S. champion and had won the prior 4 U.S. championships ahead of this. And he was already considered one of the best players in the world. Undoubtedly, maybe one of the top 5-10 players in the world already in 1964 when this game was played. So he plays rook here, rook to b7, and now threat is simply taking the pawn with check here, and all kinds of other devastating checks after that out of the bishop over here on the dark squares. So black pretty much must play b to e7, bishop to e7, blocking the checkmate and maybe getting ready to castle, but if he castles, he'll end up losing the bishop now. So things are very difficult for black at this point. He may be up 2 pawns here, but he's losing. He's going to have a hard time holding the game here. And Fischer playing very thematically, making the logical moves. He wants to open the position for his rooks and open the game for his lone bishop. He plays f4 here. Okay, again, trying to exchange pawns off and open the game. And black wants no part of that and plays f6, protecting the pawn. Fischer plays takes e5. And again, f takes e5 would not be good because of queen check, followed by queen takes pawn here, or queen check followed by checkmate, excuse me. So black must capture d takes e5, and that's what he plays. Fischer at this point plays rook on f to b1, doubling the rooks, teamwork here on the file. Again, an interesting move that he could have also played. Could have played rook takes check and gotten in some checks, and that would have won as well, which he plays in a little bit. So he plays rook on f to the file, b1, protecting the rook, threatening to bring in the other rook, perhaps into b6, perhaps just taking with check and rook here. He's got a very powerful game at this point. And black's just trying to hold on, maybe plays rook up to here with the idea of rook here. So he plays rook here, and Fischer now makes the expected move. Do any of you see the winning move for white here? You need to put on your computer eyes, okay, and look for the checks, look for the impossible moves. Obviously, queen check we'd look at. No, queen takes queen, no good. Queen here, queen takes queen. Next, we want to see our rook checks, and we look at rook takes, bishop with check, giving the rook up for a lesser viable piece. Black clearly must take, or he's just going to be a piece down. He's in check. It's in checkmate, actually, so he must take. And, of course, this is the way the game went, too. Fischer plays rook here, check. Queen takes rook is really the only logical move at this point. King here, queen check. Again, where else are we going to play? We can block the queen, we'll lose it. King here, and finally, the lone bishop, which has been lurking way back here, comes in powerfully on the diagonal that it had open, the open line. Checkmate, the game is over. This is how the game would have ended. His opponent, in fact, had seen, as soon as he saw rook takes on e7 check, he resigned on the spot, which was, of course, the right thing to do. So the game actually ended like this: rook takes, b check, and his opponent resigned because he recognized at this point, that at the end was near after king takes, rook takes. He would have to lose his queen here to avoid checkmate. So he would have had to play queen takes queen. And Fischer at that point would have queen and b against two rooks, which is in the hands of a very good player, an easy win. 9 and 3 is 12, 5 and 5 is 10. So after king here, it wouldn't, he has a lot of choices here. Yeah, he will win, undoubtedly. So the moral of the story here, moral of this particular game anyway, is follow the ABCs of chess. Bring out your pieces, get your pieces off the back rank, attack the center initially with pawns to make room to bring out your bishops, bring out your knights, and castle. Don't get fancy. Follow the ABCs of chess. Look for the captures and checks, and you'll do fine. We'll see you soon.